Chosen. 1. Stop for a moment. Everything around you seems ordinary, but heaven has paused the clock just for you. This is not a random message. It is not an algorithm. It is a divine interruption sent straight into your timeline. And if you're wondering why this message found you now, it's because heaven moves in precision, not coincidence. Every heartbeat that led to this second was orchestrated. The very breath you take while reading this is proof that grace still surrounds you, waiting for your surrender to become destiny. You've been feeling it, those strange waves of restlessness, that quiet ache that won't leave. You've tried to fill it with noise, with people, with distraction, but nothing works. That's because what you feel isn't emptiness, it's a calling. Heaven has been trying to speak, and you've been too tired to listen. But now, everything stops. The Spirit of God says, "Enough running." End quote. You were never meant to live numb. You were never meant to simply survive. You were chosen before you were born, handcrafted with intention, designed with a mission that darkness has been terrified of since the day you took your first breath. The battle over your peace isn't about your past, it's about your potential. Can you feel it? That trembling in your chest isn't fear, it's recognition. It's your soul, remembering who it is. You've always been different. You see too deeply, feel too strongly, dream too wildly. You've carried more than most, cried more than others. Yet still, you rise. That resilience isn't coincidence, it's evidence that you are marked. God has been patient, but his patience is not permission to delay. He has been whispering through sleepless nights, through the faces of strangers, through moments that seemed too precise to be chance. And now, his voice thunders softly in your spirit. I'm still here, and I still want you. Oh, this is your wake-up call. You've crossed seasons where silence felt like punishment. But silence was mercy. He was waiting for you to stop running in circles and finally turn your face toward him. You've prayed for signs. This is one. You've asked for confirmation. This is it. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to surrender, to stop pretending that you don't hear him when every fiber of your being knows that you do. The longer you ignore the call, the heavier life becomes, not because he's cruel, but because destiny always demands attention. The Spirit once spoke through the prophet to remind his children of divine purpose and courage. The prophet Elijah spoke as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. This is that moment for you. The crossroads, the divine ultimatum. Heaven is watching for your decision. Will you keep living half awake, half believing, half obedient, or will you rise into the full weight of your calling? Because the truth is this: neutrality is rebellion in disguise. You cannot serve two masters. The light within you is too bright to stay dim, too holy to be hidden behind excuses. God is not asking you to be flawless. He is asking you to be faithful. Your indecision delays destinies, not just your own, but those connected to your obedience. There are people whose breakthrough is waiting on your surrender. Every delay in obedience births confusion, but every yes to God births peace. You've wondered why life feels heavy. This is why. The longer you resist, the more the world around you feels misaligned. Heaven has already written your story, but only your obedience can turn the page. The anointing that once felt distant will rush back the moment you stop running. There's still time, but not endless time. Mercy stands open, but it's not a door that stays unlocked forever. God's love is fierce, but His justice is real. This message isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to awaken you before the window closes. You've been chosen for this exact moment, and heaven will not release its grip on you until you answer the call. If this word is stirring something inside you, don't stay silent. Let heaven see your response. Type 777 inches, the comments, as your prophetic act of surrender. Then like, share, and subscribe, not for vanity, but so this same call reaches another soul, standing where you once stood, on the edge of decision. Because revival starts with obedience, and obedience starts with a single yes. Chosen one. Heaven is speaking. Don't anger the one who called you by ignoring his voice. You have been running for so long. Chosen one. Not with your feet, but with your soul. Every time conviction stirred in your heart, you drowned it in noise. Every time the Spirit whispered, you filled the silence with motion. You told yourself you were too busy, too broken, too unsure. Yet, deep down, you knew it wasn't avoidance of God. It was fear of what He might ask of you once you finally stopped. You've been mistaking His patience for absence. But heaven has been watching, waiting, calling. The gentle pull that you've ignored wasn't guilt, it was grace. God could have let you drift, could have given you over to your choices, but He didn't. Instead, He sent reminders, the sudden unease when you stepped out of His will, the ache of emptiness after chasing temporary highs, the unexplainable peace that came when you whispered His name again. Those were not coincidences. Those were His fingerprints on your life. You are not running from punishment, you are running from purpose. Because deep down, you already sense that saying yes will cost you everything familiar. It will call you to higher standards, deeper faith, greater surrender. And yet what you are afraid to lose is nothing compared to what you are destined to gain. God is not chasing you with wrath. He is pursuing you with mercy. You think He's angry, but He's aching. You think He's condemning, but He's calling. You think you've gone too far, but He has been right behind you the entire time, waiting for you to turn around. His patience is not weakness, it's proof of love beyond understanding. You've seen the signs, moments when everything should have fallen apart, but didn't. Accidents avoided. People sent into your life at just the right moment. Opportunities that reappeared, even after you thought you'd missed them. Every time you whispered, God, if you're real, give me a sign. And something inexplicable happened. That was Him, answering quietly, so your spirit would still have a chance to respond freely. But the longer you run, the heavier life becomes. You cannot outrun a calling that was written into your DNA. You can fill your schedule, your mind, your heart with distractions. But the divine ache will always return, because the voice that created you refuses to compete with noise forever. Sooner or later, everything else will fall silent, and only His whisper will remain. You remember the moments, don't you? The nights when sleep wouldn't come, the tears that arrived without reason, the sense that something unseen was tugging at your soul. That was the sound of your destiny knocking from the other side of disobedience. You weren't losing your mind, you were losing the luxury of pretending you didn't hear Him. God never forgot you. Even in your rebellion, He built walls of protection around you, limits that looked like disappointment but were actually mercy. The relationship that ended suddenly, the door that closed painfully, the opportunity that slipped away, all were interventions, not punishments. He wasn't trying to hurt you. He was saving you from what would have destroyed your purpose. And even now, as you read these words, something inside you trembles. That's not fear, it's recognition. Your spirit knows this truth. You are not lost, you are being located. The Spirit once reminded his people through ancient wisdom, a message that still reaches across generations, according to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Acknowledge him in all, and he directs your paths. That is the invitation waiting for you now. You've trusted your feelings long enough, leaned on your logic long enough, depended on your own strength long enough. But those paths have only led to exhaustion. God is not asking for your map, he's offering you his. The road back won't always be easy, but it will be holy. The journey home isn't about shame, it's about surrender. You don't have to fix everything before you come back. You just have to stop running. The same God you've been avoiding is the same God who will welcome you without hesitation. So breathe. You are safe here. The chase is over. The arms of grace are still open. Not because you deserve them, but because he never stopped loving you. You may have run far, but you have never run out of reach. Chosen one. Feel the weight of this moment. Every hesitation you've carried has built an invisible wall between you and your calling. Each time you said, "Not yet," that wall grew higher. You didn't mean to resist God, you were simply afraid of what obedience might cost. But what you haven't realized is that disobedience has a cost too, and it is far greater. You've been standing in the in-between for too long, half in the light, half in the shadows. You speak faith with your lips, but live fear in your choices. You tell yourself you'll fully surrender one day. But heaven is asking, when will that day come? The Spirit doesn't chase endlessly. The fire doesn't burn forever. Mercy has a sound, and when it goes quiet, only consequence remains. This is the moment to look honestly at yourself. Every time God called you to act and you delayed, something inside you grew quieter. Conviction fades when it's ignored too long. That dull ache you feel now isn't distance, it's warning. The heavens are patient, but not passive. The cost of delay isn't only what you lose, it's what others lose, because you didn't move when you were supposed to. There are people waiting for the words you were meant to speak. Prayers, waiting for the intercession you were born to release. Destinies tied to your obedience. When you stay silent, others stay bound. You don't just delay your purpose, you delay deliverance for someone else. God is not trying to take from you, he's trying to entrust you. Every act of obedience opens doors no prayer alone can unlock. You have been praying for miracles, yet ignoring the very instructions that would birth them. You've asked for signs, but refused to step forward when the signs appeared. Heaven has already spoken. The question now is whether you will respond. You've told yourself you're waiting for confirmation, but faith itself is confirmation. When the Spirit speaks, he doesn't repeat himself forever. You're not waiting for a new word, you're being reminded of the last one you ignored. There's a pattern here, and heaven wants to break it. You promise obedience when you're desperate, but retreat when life gets comfortable again. God cannot build on inconsistency. You say, "Use me, Lord," but shrink back when he actually begins to move. The shaking you feel in your life isn't punishment, it's construction. God is tearing down what cannot remain so that what is eternal can finally rise. Your disobedience doesn't make you unworthy, but it does make you unfinished. Heaven is still willing to complete what it began, but the process requires your yes. You cannot walk in divine power while holding on to rebellion. You cannot live under open heavens with a closed heart. The ancient writings still echo this truth across generations, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 2. All these blessings will come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. Blessings don't chase those who refuse to move. They overtake those who obey. That's why your blessings feel delayed. It's not because heaven is ignoring you, but because obedience is still pending. God cannot pour new wine into a vessel that won't stand still long enough to be filled. Think back to when you last felt fully alive, that surge of purpose, that fire in your bones. That was obedience in motion. Heaven's presence burns brightest when you align with its rhythm. Every act of surrender reopens the flow of divine favor, and every moment of resistance slows it. The distance you feel from God is often just the distance between instruction and action. So here is your turning point. Heaven is calling you to speak agreement, to break hesitation with declaration. Comment, "I will obey." Okay, let those words be more than text. Let them be prophecy. When you type them, you're not writing for the algorithm. You're declaring to heaven that your heart is ready. You are giving permission for divine order to return. You're telling the unseen world that the running stops here. Don't underestimate small acts of faith. Your written agreement becomes a witness in the spiritual realm. Angels move on declarations spoken in alignment with truth. Every time you echo heaven's will, you strengthen the bridge between intention and manifestation. Chosen one. The Father still wants you. The mission hasn't been reassigned. The mercy hasn't expired. The oil that once dripped from your soul can flow again. You are not disqualified, you are delayed. And today, heaven offers you one more chance to move from delay to destiny. Stop wavering. Stop postponing your breakthrough. When you act in obedience, chains break first in the spirit, then in your reality. This is the sound of heaven's countdown. Your next step determines your next season. The wall of resistance will crumble the moment you decide to rise. And when you do, all of heaven will move to meet you halfway. Every delay leaves a mark. Chosen one, you may not see it with your eyes, but your spirit feels it, the weight of every ignored instruction, every postponed act of faith. The cost of disobedience is rarely immediate. It shows itself in fragments, in moments that seem to fall apart for no reason. You start to sense that something is missing, that life feels slightly misaligned. That isn't coincidence. That's the quiet consequence of resisting the voice that shaped you. When you run from God's direction, peace becomes the first casualty. You can still smile, still work, still pretend, but deep inside, you know something sacred has gone quiet. The laughter loses its color. The victories feel hollow. You begin to chase things that once satisfied you, but now leave you emptier. That's not punishment. It's mercy pulling you back to alignment. Because God will never let His chosen ones find fulfillment outside His will. You may think that your disobedience affects only you, but heaven doesn't see life in isolation, it sees in connection. Every yes or no you speak ripples through time, touching destinies you don't even know yet. When you resist your assignment, someone else's answer is delayed. When you walk away from the call, another person's breakthrough is postponed. The Father's kingdom is a living body, and when one part refuses to move, the entire body feels the strain. Disobedience doesn't begin in rebellion, it begins in reasoning. The enemy doesn't need to make you wicked, he only needs to make you comfortable. He'll whisper that it's fine to delay, that you'll obey tomorrow, that there's still time. He doesn't tempt you with sin first, he tempts you with silence. He knows that spiritual paralysis is just as effective as open rebellion. But heaven is not fooled by quiet disobedience. Delay is disobedience dressed in patience. That is why you feel weary even when nothing is wrong. You've been running on grace that was meant to be renewed through obedience. The longer you live disconnected from instruction, the more your strength fades. God's word is your lifeline when you stop walking in it. Your spirit suffocates. There was a time when his voice burned brightly inside you. You felt his presence in every breath, but over time, distraction dulled it. You told yourself that maybe you misheard him, maybe you imagined it, maybe you just needed a sign. And slowly, your heart grew used to silence. Yet the strange truth is this: God's silence often isn't absence, it's consequence. When you ignore his words long enough, he lets you feel the weight of life without them. Even then, merci, lingas. God still surrounds you with reminders, a verse that pierces your heart, a song that feels like prophecy, a stranger's words that sound like your own thoughts. You keep encountering messages about surrender, alignment, obedience. That repetition is not random, it's heaven refusing to give up on you. There's a difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction invites you home. Condemnation locks you out. Right now, what you feel pressing against your chest is conviction. It's God saying, I still want you. If he didn't, you wouldn't feel anything at all. You would be numb. The very ache that haunts you is proof that his spirit still moves within you. The holy writings remind us of this sobering truth, recorded by the prophet whose words carried both warning and hope. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 7, verse 23. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people, and walk in all the way that I command you, that it may be well with you. That promise remains. The path of obedience is not restriction, it is protection. The walls you think God builds to limit you are actually shields to preserve you. He doesn't ask for submission to control you, he asks for it to save you. When you obey, you align with the rhythm of heaven, and everything else begins to find order again. Every act of rebellion invites chaos. Every act of obedience invites peace. This is a law written into creation itself. That's why your life begins to unravel when you resist what he's asking. It's not that God withdraws blessings out of cruelty, it's that you've stepped outside the flow where they exist. But even if you've wandered far, the road back is still open. The same voice you ignored still calls your name with the same tenderness. God doesn't hold grudges, he holds out his hand. What he wants is not your perfection, it's your permission to restore what's been broken. So breathe deeply. Let the regret fall away. There is no condemnation here. Only a father calling his child home. If you listen carefully, beneath the noise of your guilt, you'll hear it, the sound of mercy walking toward you. You haven't gone too far. You've simply gone long enough. Chosen one. Heaven is calling you again, not with thunder this time, but with tenderness. The sound of mercy still echoes through the corridors of your life, asking softly, will you return? Because the truth is, God never stopped calling. You just grew used to the noise drowning him out. But now, everything feels keener. You can sense the shift. The air feels different. Grace is reaching for you one more time. There are moments when heaven doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers can move mountains if you learn to listen. You've been walking through a desert, but that dryness has been holy. It stripped away the distractions until only your soul remained. God often lets you run out of options, so you'll finally realize he was never just one of them. He was the only one. Think of your heart like a garden. Every decision is a seed. When you delay obedience, weeds grow quickly. When you surrender, flowers bloom in impossible soil. The ground of your life has been dry, but heaven is sending rain, and that rain looks like peace returning where chaos lived. It looks like joy replacing exhaustion. It looks like purpose taking root again in a heart that thought it was done. God is doing something new in you, but he needs your agreement. You can't keep watering yesterday's garden and expect tomorrow's harvest. Let go of what you lost. It was never meant to grow where you're going. The pain you've endured wasn't wasted. It was plowing your spirit for the seeds of glory that are about to be planted. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's the invitation. Right there. Rest is not found in escape, it's found in returning. You've been trying to fix everything with your own strength. But divine rest doesn't mean inactivity, it means alignment. When you finally stop fighting against God, you discover that his arms have been open all along. Beloved, this message isn't just for inspiration, it's an awakening. And awakening requires participation, just as a candle cannot burn unless it's lit. Revival cannot spread unless hearts respond. When you like, share, and subscribe, you're not just clicking a button, you're building an altar. You're saying, Lord, let this message reach someone else who's lost in the dark like I was. You're planting digital seeds that heaven will water in unseen ways. Maybe you think it's a small gesture, but even a mustard seed moves mountains. Each time you share light, you partner with heaven's strategy. Somewhere out there, another weary heart will hear these same words and realize they are not alone. That's what you're doing. You're carrying the torch forward. And if you've ever felt moved by this message, consider going one step further. Help sustain it. The vision behind these words isn't powered by fame or wealth. It's powered by faith and by the generosity of those who believe in its mission. When you choose to donate, you become part of the ministry itself. It's like adding oil to the lamp so the flame doesn't go out. Think of it this way. Every voice that speaks truth costs something to sustain. Time, prayer, energy, resources. It's all an offering. When you give, you're not supporting a platform, you're feeding a movement. You're saying, God, I believe this word should reach the broken, the lost, the ones about to give up. Your gift no matter how small, becomes a ripple in eternity. But hear this clearly. This is not about obligation, it's about participation. You don't give because you have to. You give because you want to be part of what heaven is doing. Whether through prayer, support, or generosity, you are helping light travel farther than it ever could alone. Just as rivers never drink their own water, and trees never eat their own fruit, your blessing was never meant to end with you. When you pour out, heaven pours back. That's how divine flow works, through open hands, not clenched fists. The same God who provided for you before will multiply what you release for His glory. The world is full of noise, but heaven's message needs amplifiers, people who care enough to make sure it's heard. If this word has touched you, carry it forward. Let your click, your share, your prayer, or your offering be your amen. Remember, chosen one, revival doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in small, faithful acts, the quiet moments when one heart says, "Here I am, Lord, use me." So take this message to heart. Let it water the places inside you that have grown dry. Let it remind you that obedience is not about earning love, it's about walking in it. Heaven's invitation still stands. And all it asks of you is this: don't let the flame go out. Keep the light alive. Keep the message moving. And above all, keep your heart open. Chosen one. There comes a point when the signs can no longer be ignored. Heaven has been sending them again and again, through dreams, through patterns, through divine disruptions that seem almost too specific to be coincidence. You've seen repeating symbols, certain words, even moments that seem to echo themselves across different days. You've brushed them off as randomness, but deep down, your spirit knows you are being pursued. God doesn't always speak in thunder. Sometimes He speaks through timing. The moment something repeats, that's His way of saying, "I'm still here, still speaking, still waiting." You've been asking for clarity, but heaven has already given you confirmation. What you're seeing isn't imagination, it's invitation. Do you remember that day when everything felt off, but you couldn't explain why? That sudden heaviness in the air, that strange pull in your heart. It wasn't anxiety, it was awareness. Your spirit recognized that something sacred was near. Heaven doesn't approach quietly, it hums around you until you finally look up. You've been noticing numbers, faces, phrases, things that show up over and over. They follow you like whispers in plain sight. That's not chance, that's choreography. The same God who painted the stars in divine order knows exactly how to speak to you in a language your soul understands. These are spiritual breadcrumbs leading you home. But here's the truth: signs mean nothing if you don't respond. Every time you ignore them, your sensitivity dulls a little more. Heaven is generous with warnings, but precise with timing. You are not being haunted, you are being summoned. The reason you keep seeing those reminders is because the window of grace is still open, but it won't stay open forever. Your life right now is a message in motion. Every delay, every redirection, every closed door, they all speak. The conversation between you and God has never stopped. You've just been too distracted to realize you're in it. The signs have been shouting what the Spirit has been whispering: return. You may be wondering, why me? Because you're marked. You've always been marked. Others may see random occurrences, but you see patterns because your eyes were trained for spiritual language. The veil between seen and unseen has always been thin around you. That's not a burden, that's a gift. But with revelation comes responsibility. God doesn't show signs to entertain curiosity. He reveals them to activate purpose. Each repeated moment, each accidental encounter, each whisper of déjà vu is heaven tugging at your timeline, saying, "It's time." And there's a sacred moment recorded long ago that speaks directly into this one. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." The signs before you are choices in disguise. Every pattern you notice, every divine nudge, is God's gentle way of asking which path you will take. You are being guided toward life. But life requires a response. You can't stay neutral when eternity is calling your name. And so, here is your prophetic action for this moment. Something simple but sacred. Comment 555. That number carries weight in the spirit. It symbolizes divine transition grace multiplied. When you write it, you're not just typing, you're testifying. You're declaring, "I see the signs, and I'm ready to move." It's your way of aligning heaven's message with your earthly agreement. Understand this: when you respond to a divine sign, heaven responds to you. The act itself becomes a signature of faith. Like signing your name on the covenant God's been holding open for you. The Spirit watches for small gestures that reveal big surrender. You've been living under observation, not condemnation. Heaven is studying your reactions, measuring your readiness. Every ignored sign delays your release. Every acknowledgement draws you closer. And the more you respond, the clearer the next step becomes. Revelation grows where attention flows. The signs are not to control you, but to comfort you, to remind you that you are never walking alone. The same God who sends the signal is already waiting at the destination. You are not being warned because you are in danger. You are being reminded because you are loved. So the next time the numbers appear again, or a phrase seems to repeat, or a face returns that you thought you'd never see, pause. Don't rush past it. Ask, "Lord, what are you showing me?" And listen, because that's when the ordinary becomes holy, and the moment becomes a message. The language of heaven is speaking all around you. The only question is, will you keep pretending it's coincidence, or will you finally answer back? Chosen one, beneath all the noise of the world, there has always been a hidden task written on your soul, a sacred assignment. The universe has been waiting for you to remember. You were born carrying something unseen, a key that fits a door only you can open. Others may walk beside you, but none can walk for you. Every step of your journey, every season of loss and restoration, has been preparation for this hidden calling. You've felt it before, haven't you? That quiet sense that you were made for something greater, though you couldn't yet name it. The world tried to convince you that you were just another person, replaçable, ordinary. But the truth is, you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to disrupt darkness. The ache you've carried, the loneliness, the isolation, the misunderstanding, those were all signs that you were being set apart, not left behind. Hot-Heater's greatness in disguise. The ones he uses most powerfully are often the ones who feel invisible. You've mistaken concealment for rejection. But in reality, you've been in divine hiding. A treasure isn't abandoned when it's buried. It's protected until the appointed time, and that time is drawing near. Every delay, every closed door, every unanswered prayer, it wasn't denial, it was training. The moments that broke you were actually forging the armor you'd need for the battles ahead. You've been crying out, "Why me, Lord?" But heaven has been answering, because you can carry what others cannot. And the hidden assignment in your life isn't a career or a title, it's a calling woven into your DNA. It's the reason why certain injustices stir your heart more deeply than others. It's why you feel things intensely, why silence feels heavier to you than to most. You've been built to see what others ignore, to heal what others overlook, to speak when others stay silent. But before the mission can begin outwardly, it must first be activated inwardly. God has to deal with the noise inside you, the fear, the self-doubt, the memories of failure that keep whispering, "You're unworthy." Those inner storms are not evidence that you're disqualified. They are proof that you're chosen. The enemy doesn't waste his weapons on those who pose no threat. Your warfare reveals your worth. If your battles have been intense, it's because the mantle on your life is heavy. Heaven equips you according to your calling, not your comfort. That's why the journey has felt lonely at times, because you are walking a path not meant for crowds. And yet, even when you doubted yourself, God never downgraded his plan. Every wrong turn was folded into his design. The detours were still part of the route. You thought you were off track, but you were actually on a path of revelation, learning who you are by discovering who you are not. There's an ancient truth written long ago, reminding the chosen that calling often hides beneath struggle. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 139, verse 16. "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be, before your first breath. Your purpose was already drafted in heaven's script. Nothing you've done has erased it. Even the mistakes you regret most deeply have been absorbed into grace. The author of your story doesn't need to rewrite the pages. He just turns them in perfect timing. You've been waiting for confirmation, but heaven is waiting for courage. The mission cannot unfold while you cling to the illusion of safety. Your comfort zone has become a cage, and God is shaking it gently. So you'll remember, you were born to fly. Eagles aren't meant to perch forever. They're built for the wind. The turbulence you feel isn't punishment, it's promotion. Listen carefully, because this is where destiny begins to take shape. The assignment on your life won't always come with clarity, it will come with conviction. You won't always have a map, but you'll have a compass, his voice. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, lights the next step. You don't need to see the whole road, you only need to trust the one who designed it. You've been chosen to be a bridge between the seen and unseen, between faith and doubt, between heaven's plan and earth's need. Your existence itself is prophecy. Every breath you take is evidence that God hasn't finished what he started. So don't despise the hidden season. It's not punishment, it's protection. God is preparing the world for your unveiling, just as he's preparing your spirit to handle the weight of being seen. What's hidden now will soon speak loudly. The light you carry is about to collide with darkness. And when it does, everything will change. Stay steady. Chosen one. The wait is almost over. Chosen one. There is a sacred law written into the fabric of creation. Silence is never neutral. When you are called to speak and choose to remain quiet, your silence becomes a seed, and seeds always grow into something. The tragedy is that what grows from withheld truth is not peace, but distortion. Every time you swallow your words out of fear, the enemy twists them into echoes that haunt generations after you. You were given a voice for a reason. The breath that fills your lungs is borrowed from eternity, and every exhale carries divine potential. Yet the enemy's greatest tactic has always been to silence the chosen. If he can convince you to remain quiet when heaven calls you to speak, he doesn't have to stop your anointing, he only has to contain it. Think of all the times you felt the stirring to speak life into someone, to confront injustice, to declare truth in a room full of compromise, but you didn't. You told yourself it wasn't the right moment, that someone else would say it better. You let the moment pass, and something inside you dimmed. That ache you felt afterward wasn't regret, it was conviction. The Spirit was reminding you that withheld obedience is still disobedience. When you silence the truth inside you, it doesn't disappear, it decays. It begins to rot in the corners of your soul until it leaks into other parts of your life. Suddenly, your joy feels distant, your peace feels fragile, and you can't quite explain why. But deep down, your spirit knows it was never meant to carry what it refused to release. You were born to speak light. Heaven equipped you with words that heal, declarations that break chains, and insights that could shift atmospheres. But those gifts are meant to flow, not stagnate. If a river stops moving, it becomes a swamp. If a chosen one stops speaking, the world around them becomes heavy. Your silence gives darkness space to multiply. There are moments when your words carry the power to rewrite someone else's story. You may never see it, but one sentence of obedience can set another soul free. You have no idea how many people's destinies are tied to your courage. The light you carry isn't just for you, it's for those wandering through their own night. Yet, fear is a subtle thief. It dresses itself as humility. It whispers, "Don't speak, you might be wrong. Don't move, you might fail." But that's the deception. True humility isn't silence, it's surrender. It's trusting that if God put a word in you, He'll also give you the grace to speak it. The power isn't in your eloquence, it's in your obedience. You see, your voice was never meant to compete with others. It was meant to complete heaven's harmony. Every chosen one carries a frequency that, when released, strengthens the sound of truth on earth. When you withhold your voice, heaven feels the absence. There is a divine melody missing its note until you open your mouth. The scriptures remind us of this timeless truth, a warning and a promise intertwined, as the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk. Chapter 2, verse 2. Write the vision and make it plain upon tablets, that he may run who reads it. God didn't say, "Think the vision." He said, "Write it, express it, make it visible." Truth concealed helps no one. The call to speak is not just about sound, it's about manifestation. What remains unspoken remains unborn. Chosen one, heaven has been waiting for your sound. It's time to release the words that have been imprisoned inside you. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to be true. God isn't asking you to shout, He's asking you to declare. There's a difference. Shouting draws attention to self, declaring draws attention to heaven. Every testimony, every scar, Every lesson you've learned carries language that could heal another's soul. Don't bury it in fear. You've been entrusted with revelation, and revelation demands release. Your story, your tears, your triumphs, they are sermons written in human form, and until you speak them, the pages remain unread. The cost of silence is too high. Speak, not for recognition, but for restoration. Speak, not to be right, but to be light. The darkness has had enough airtime. It's time for the chosen to reclaim the sound of heaven. The world doesn't need perfection. It needs truth wrapped in courage. You already carry both. Chosen one. Rebellion doesn't always look like shouting no at heaven. Sometimes it looks like smiling and saying, later. You've told yourself that delay isn't disobedience, that hesitation isn't rejection. But in the courts of heaven, delay often carries the same weight as denial. The war for your destiny isn't about belief, it's about obedience. You already believe. What's at stake now is whether you'll act. You've been circling the same mountain for too long, wondering why peace never stays. The truth is simple. You can't have peace while arguing with your assignment. God keeps bringing you back to the same instruction, not because He's cruel, but because that's where your freedom is buried. Every unfinished act of obedience becomes a door left half open enough to let doubt slip in, but never wide enough to let blessing through. The Spirit has been whispering, nudging, even pleading at times. Turn around. Let go. Forgive. Move. And yet, you keep asking for another sign. Heaven is asking, why should I send a new word when you haven't acted on the last one? The delay isn't from God, it's from your hesitation. The mercy that holds you is thick, but it isn't endless. Understand this. Rebellion isn't always loud. It can be quiet, polite, even polite-looking rebellion. It's the kind that sings worship songs while ignoring the very voice it worships. It's the kind that cries, "Use me, Lord," but walks away when He asks for something uncomfortable. The enemy doesn't need you to curse God. He just needs you to ignore Him long enough for conviction to fade. You've felt the tension inside, that strange restlessness that won't leave, no matter how you distract yourself. That's not anxiety, that's divine discomfort. It's God refusing to let you settle in disobedience. He loves you too much to let you make peace with rebellion. Every time your spirit trembles when you think about that one thing He asked of you, that's His mercy, still reaching for you. The Holy Text gives us a mirror to see ourselves more clearly, written for moments exactly like this. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 6, verse 16. You are slaves to the one you obey sin to, death, or obedience to righteousness. That truth still burns today. Every choice is a declaration of allegiance. You are never neutral. You're either moving toward light or drifting toward shadow. The in-between you've been standing in doesn't exist in heaven. It's an illusion built by fear. The good news is that God never exposes rebellion to shame you. He exposes it to free you. When light shines on what's hidden, it's not punishment, it's rescue. Every time conviction stings, it's a sign that your heart is still alive, still reachable. Dead hearts feel nothing, but the chosen feel deeply because they're still called. Rebellion feeds on pride, but obedience is born from surrender. It's not about control, it's about alignment. God isn't trying to break your will, He's trying to bring your will back into harmony with His. Because where there's alignment, there's power. You've been praying for breakthrough. But breakthrough doesn't come through begging, it comes through bending. This is your moment to bow before you break. Heaven has been patient, but now the Spirit is drawing a line. Will you continue resisting the one who wrote your purpose? The storms you've been facing aren't random, they're reflections of the inner war between your calling and your comfort. But there's still time to shift it. Right now, in this moment, don't overthink it. Don't justify it. Don't numb it. Respond. Let heaven record your surrender, not in silence, but in declaration. Comment. I choose light. N. Let it be more than a phrase. When you type those words, you're not performing for others, you're prophesying over yourself. You're announcing that darkness no longer gets your agreement, that hesitation no longer owns your future. It's your public yes to a private conviction. And when you do, something shifts in the unseen. The rebellion that has followed your bloodline breaks its hold. The weight of delay begins to lift. Heaven honors small obedience, because small obedience opens great doors. Chosen one. Don't let pride cost you presence. The moment you say yes, everything you lost to disobedience begins to find its way back to you, but this time, purified by surrender. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. The battle between your will and God's will has gone on long enough. This is not a warning born from anger, it's an invitation born from love. The Father doesn't want to rule you, He wants to walk with you. But He cannot walk with rebellion, He walks only with surrender. So step out of resistance and into rhythm. Heaven's hand is still extended. Take it before mercy turns into silence. Chosen one. You've walked through fire and wondered if it was punishment. But it was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to refine you. The heat you felt wasn't God's anger, it was His love, burning away what couldn't travel with you into your next season. Gold doesn't complain about the fire. It understands that flames are the only way to reveal its true worth. You are that gold shining, tested, chosen. Every trial that made you question everything was secretly teaching you endurance. You didn't just survive the storm, you became the storm breaker. You carry wisdom now that can't be taught by comfort. The pain that once seemed senseless now glows with purpose. You may not have seen it before, but heaven has been writing meaning into every scar. Each one is a line in your testimony, proof that you walked through darkness and still carried your light. Sometimes God allows the pressure to increase, not to crush you, but to shape you. Diamonds are born under weight. Wine only flows after the crushing of grapes. The olive only yields oil when it's pressed. You are not being punished, you're being prepared. Every tear you've shed has watered the soil of your destiny. What once looked like loss was really cultivation. And now, the refining season begins to make sense. God has been separating imitation from authenticity people. Habits, thoughts, and even dreams. The things that fell away weren't rejection, they were release. You prayed for elevation. But elevation always requires separation. The mountaintop has less oxygen because fewer can breathe at that level. You are being trained to live in rarefied air. The ancient text offers comfort for those enduring the refining process. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 21. If one cleanses from dishonor, he becomes a vessel for honor, holy, useful, prepared for good works. This is your transformation in motion. You've been emptied, so you can be filled again this time, with clarity, purity, and strength that cannot be shaken. The fire didn't end you. It revealed the real you. The parts that couldn't survive the heat were never meant to define you anyway. But hear this. Chosen one, the journey of refinement isn't meant to stay private. The light God has rekindled in you isn't for you alone. When you like, share, or subscribe, you're not promoting a platform, you're participating in a movement. You're saying, let this fire reach another soul still lost in the dark. Every small act of engagement becomes a spark that lights another candle somewhere in the world. You never know whose midnight your light might reach. There's someone right now scrolling through despair, praying for a sign that they haven't been forgotten. Your one act of sharing could be the hand heaven uses to pull them out. And for those who feel led when you donate, you're not paying for words, you're fueling a flame. Think of it as pouring oil into a lamp so it never goes out. Every message that flows forth, every heart that's healed, every soul that rediscovers hope, it's all possible because someone, somewhere, decided to keep the fire burning. This work isn't powered by algorithms, it's powered by believers who understand that light must be sustained. When you give, you join the circle of those who refuse to let truth fade into silence. You become part of something that ripples beyond screens, touching hearts across borders and time zones. You are not being asked to give out of pressure, but out of partnership. Just as rivers feed the oceans that later return to nourish the land, what you release into the flow of purpose always returns, multiplied. That's how divine economy works. Nothing given in love is ever lost. So if this word has stirred something in you, if you've felt the warmth of recognition deep in your spirit, carry it forward. Support it. Let it spread. Be the vessel through which heaven continues its conversation with the world. Your obedience here is part of your refinement too. To give, to share, to amplify, these are acts of surrender, just as holy as prayer. They say, I believe this fire is worth keeping alive. No, remember this. A flame never grows smaller by lighting another, it only burns brighter. And you, chosen one, were never meant to guard your light in isolation, you were meant to multiply it. So, stand tall in your glow. The same God who refined you in the fire now calls you to carry that fire to others. Don't heed it. Don't hoard it. Let it burn until the darkness retreats. You are the vessel. You are the torchbearer. You are proof that even ashes can shine. Chosen one. The moment you awaken to your purpose, the realm of darkness takes notice. The enemy does not waste his energy on those who pose no threat. The weight of your warfare is evidence of your significance. Every strange resistance, every sudden opposition, every attack that seemed to come out of nowhere, it all began the moment you started moving toward destiny. You are not being punished, you are being opposed. You've likely wondered why certain people turned against you without reason, why situations seemed to collapse right when breakthrough was near. That is not coincidence. The closer you step toward divine purpose, the louder the enemy roars. Darkness always reacts when light begins to move. You were hidden long enough that the shadows grew comfortable now. Your awakening threatens their hold. The spiritual realm operates like an unseen battlefield. Angels and adversaries move around you, even when your natural eyes see nothing. Sometimes, the heaviness you feel isn't yours. It's the weight of what's trying to stop you. You're not crazy. You're discerning. The tug of war inside your soul is the sound of heaven fighting for your alignment. Understand this. Every chosen one carries a target. Your presence alone disrupts plans crafted in secrecy. That's why confusion has followed you. That's why fatigue clings to your shoulders when you try to pray. That's why opportunities sometimes fall apart at the last moment, because opposition knows that if you ever fully stand, entire systems of darkness will crumble. But do not fear. God does not call warriors he hasn't equipped. The enemy's resistance is proof that heaven's power rests upon you. Every weapon formed against you has already been accounted for in your design. The fire you faced earlier wasn't just refinement, it was fortification. You have been built to withstand what would break ordinary souls. Remember the nights when despair whispered louder than faith. Even then, heaven recorded your endurance. You didn't know it. But every tear was a declaration that said, I still believe. Angels respond to that kind of endurance. They move at the sound of faith spoken through pain. The battle you're in isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to train your discernment. God allows resistance to reveal what's within. When pressure rises, what's false falls away, and what's eternal grows stronger. Every attack you've endured has secretly made you more dangerous to hell. Your prayer life now carries weight because it was forged through warfare. Listen, chosen one, there are enemies at the gate. But they are not winning. They're just loud. The noise is meant to distract you from your authority. The shadows exaggerate their strength because they know the light in you is awakening. Don't fight with fear, fight with focus. The scriptures capture this invisible tension perfectly. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That command is not weakness, it's strategy. Stillness in warfare is not surrender, it's trust. It's the refusal to waste strength fighting what heaven has already conquered. When you stand still in faith, you allow God to display his strength through your stability. Your peace is warfare in disguise. Think of the ocean. When storms rage, the surface churns violently, but deep beneath, the waters remain calm and steady. That's the kind of peace God calls you to: deep, anchored, immovable. The battle may roar above you, but your spirit can remain still beneath. You are not defenseless. You've been given weapons, unseen faith that disarms fear, prayer that pierces darkness, and worship that confuses the enemy. When you speak the truth aloud, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. When you stand firm in righteousness, hell loses footing. You are a walking declaration that the light of God cannot be extinguished. And though the war may feel endless, remember this: opposition is seasonal, but purpose is eternal. The attacks that surround you now will soon become testimonies. Every wound will shine as proof that you survived what was meant to silence you. Lift your head, chosen one. The gates of opposition tremble because you are still standing. Every time you choose faith over fear, you strike a blow in the unseen. You are not merely enduring, you are advancing. The battle that rages around you is a sign that heaven is near victory. When you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself that armies of light stand on your side. The same God who split seas and silenced storms still moves on your behalf. He has not forgotten you. He is fighting through you. So, stay grounded. Speak light. Keep your peace. The storm that surrounds you now will soon testify that you never fought alone. Chosen one. The battle around you has intensified because heaven is aligning its armies beside you. The angels that once waited in silence are now taking position. You may not see them, but you can feel the atmosphere shifting. The air feels thicker. Time feels slower. Your spirit senses something divine hovering close. That isn't your imagination. That's alignment. Heaven's forces are standing ready to reinforce what God has promised you. There are moments when the invisible realm draws near, and your soul becomes aware before your mind can understand. That sense of holy electricity in your chest, the goosebumps that rise for no reason, the sudden stillness after a storm of thought, all of it is heaven's language. God's presence doesn't always arrive in noise. Sometimes it arrives in order. The chaos begins to quiet because something higher has entered the room. Every battle has a moment when human effort ends and divine intervention begins. You've been carrying burdens that were never yours to hold alone. Heaven has seen your sleepless nights, your whispered prayers, your desperate, "Lord, I can't do this anymore." And heaven has answered. You're not fighting alone anymore. You've been reassigned from solo soldier to commander under the banner of grace. You may wonder why things feel unsettled right before peace comes. That's because heaven's armies don't enter quietly. They enter with motion. What looks like confusion is often rearrangement. Angels don't appear to decorate your life. They appear to defend it. The warfare that tried to break you has actually summoned your reinforcement. The sacred record reminds us of this unseen partnership between human faith and divine power. Scripture says in the second book of Kings, chapter 6, verse 17, "And Elisha prayed, 'Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see.' Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Those same chariots of fire still surround the chosen. You are not outnumbered, you are out of sight. The enemy's greatest illusion is isolation. He wants you to believe you're alone, because loneliness weakens courage. But if your eyes were opened fully right now, you'd see flames encircling your steps, light swirling around your home, and angels stationed at every corner of your journey. This is why you've survived battles others didn't. This is why every time darkness thought it had you cornered, you slipped through. You weren't lucky, you were covered. Heaven has intercepted blows you never even saw coming. You've been protected more times than you can count. And now, heaven is calling for your awareness. The battle is not just about endurance anymore, it's about authority. The angels move in response to faith, not fear. They wait for declarations, for alignment, for your agreement. Heaven doesn't move on emotion, it moves on obedience. Your words are the signal. Your faith is the command. Right now, this moment carries prophetic weight. Heaven is listening for your signal of faith, a sign that you are awake, aware, and ready to step into your next level of spiritual authority. Comment 444. When you write that number, you're not typing digits, you're echoing heaven's code for angelic order and divine structure. It represents God's armies in perfect synchronization. The alignment between heaven's plan and your obedience. It's your way of saying, I am surrounded. I am not alone. I am ready. That number will mark you in the spiritual realm as one who has heard the call. It's an act of recognition, a statement of agreement. As you declare it, heaven moves, chains loosen, burdens lift, clarity returns. The sound of obedience releases reinforcement. You may not hear trumpets or thunder, but you'll sense a calm settle where chaos once ruled, because the moment you align with heaven's rhythm, disorder begins to unravel. Peace isn't the absence of battle, it's the awareness of protection. Chosen one. Stand tall. You are not a victim of the storm. You are the reason it trembles. The same light that blinds your enemies illuminates your path. Angels are not distant, they are here. Attentive, surrounding your destiny like walls of living fire. The season of feeling abandoned ends now. The divine has entered your atmosphere. Heaven has heard your cry and dispatched reinforcement. The outcome of your story is no longer uncertain. God Himself has taken command of the battle, and your only task is to stay in alignment, to trust, to believe, to rest. Lift your head, chosen soul. The sky above you is crowded with light, and every beam of it bears your name. Chosen one. The most haunting sound in the universe is not the thunder of judgment, it's the silence that follows disobedience. When heaven withdraws its whisper, the world grows dim in ways that no sunlight can repair. That silence is what comes when mercy has spoken, waited, pleaded, and finally steps back. Few recognize it when it happens, but the soul feels it like an echo that never resolves. You've heard that silence before, the kind that doesn't bring peace but emptiness. The prayers that once carried warmth now fall flat. The words that used to comfort you feel dry. You try to stir your spirit, but it doesn't respond as it once did. That's the consequence of ignoring too many promptings. God doesn't always send storms to wake you. Sometimes He simply steps back, and in that distance, you realize what His presence once shielded you from. The withdrawal of God's voice isn't abandonment, it's revelation. He allows the silence so you can recognize the noise you mistook for truth. When heaven quiets, every false comfort grows louder until you see them for what they are. Temporary distractions, masking eternal hunger. Silence isn't punishment. It's the mirror where you finally see what's been missing. The stillness of heaven is not emptiness, it's warning. And yet, even in that warning, there is mercy. Because the silence of God is never total. There's always a faint hum of grace in the distance, waiting for humility to tune your heart back to His frequency. The door never slams it, simply waits, unknocked upon. Some call this silence a spiritual winter. Like trees stripped bare, your faith feels empty, but the roots are still alive. God allows dormancy to deepen endurance. If every day was summer, you'd never learn to treasure warmth. The absence of His felt presence doesn't mean He's gone. It means He's teaching you to seek Him beyond emotion. And yet, there are those who never return from that silence. They grow comfortable in numbness, mistaking it for peace. Their prayers fade. Their worship becomes habit. Their conviction turns to memory. That's when blindness begins. Not the blindness of eyes, but of heart, the inability to recognize truth when it stands before you. The scriptures tell of this solemn reality, a moment when God's patience reaches its limit and silence becomes His final word. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 1, verse 28, "And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, He gave them over to a depraved mind, to do what ought not to be done." That is the most chilling exchange in all of creation. Not God's wrath, but His release. To be given over means heaven stops interrupting. No conviction, no warning, just the echo of choices made. The moment mercy withdraws, sin no longer feels heavy. It feels natural. And that's the most dangerous feeling of all. But, beloved, the fact that you can still feel something while reading this means grace has not left you. Conviction is proof of presence. If your heart still stirs at the thought of him, the silence can still be broken. You are not too far gone. You are just far enough to know the difference. Silence is also a teacher. It reveals who you trust when you can't feel God. It strips away shallow faith built on feelings and reveals the roots anchored in truth. Those who endure the silence come out stronger, more grounded, less swayed by emotion, and more moved by devotion. The silence of God refines your hearing so that when he speaks again, even the faintest whisper will move you. Sometimes the silence comes not as consequence, but as test. Heaven observes how you respond when affirmation is removed. Will you still pray, still worship, still believe? It's easy to follow the light when it's shining. But the true chosen ones learn to walk by memory of light, not by sight of it. If you are in that season now when heaven seems quiet, when answers delay, when peace feels far, hold steady. The silence won't last forever. God never leaves his children in darkness without preparing dawn. The stillness you feel is not abandonment, it's incubation. Something holy is being formed in the unseen. When the silence finally breaks, your spirit will know the difference between noise and presence. You will speak with authority, born from absence endured. Those who have known the silence of God carry a depth that cannot be faked. They become living altars of humility, proof that even when heaven steps back, love never fully leaves. So, listen differently now. Beneath the stillness, there is still a heartbeat. It's faint, but it's divine. Follow it. That's where the voice returns. Chosen one. There is a mystery woven into the heart of redemption when mercy returns. It never comes quietly. The same God who once withdrew, his voice now rushes back with the sound of restoration. Where silence once ruled, his word thunders again, not to condemn, but to rebuild. The moment repentance meets grace, the atmosphere shifts. The space once filled with regret becomes holy ground. You've seen fragments of this before, the way peace suddenly enters after a long night of sorrow. How clarity follows confusion. How joy unexpectedly blooms in a heart that thought it was too broken to feel again. That's the language of returning mercy. It doesn't arrive in logic, it arrives in love. When God restores, he doesn't simply repair what was lost, he renews it until it becomes better than it was before. The silence of the last season was the womb of your awakening. Now, the sound you hear within is not emptiness, but the heartbeat of resurrection. God is breathing over the ashes, and what once seemed dead begins to stir again. Relationships long fractured start to soften. Dreams you buried begin to move. The light you thought had gone out flickers once more. Mercy does not erase the past, it reclaims it. Every wound becomes a doorway for healing. Every failure, a teacher. Every scar, a story. When grace steps back into your life, it does not ask for perfection, it asks for honesty. God does not rebuild on pretending, he rebuilds on truth. The moment you say, "I can't fix this alone," heaven whispers, "Good, now we can." Now, it is the simplest exchange in existence, your surrender for his strength. The transaction happens not with grandeur, but in quiet spaces, a whispered prayer, a tear on your pillow, a moment of stillness when you finally stop running. In that pause, mercy re-enters. The weight lifts. The air feels new. And for the first time in a long time, you sense God smiling not from a distance, but within you. Mercy always finds its way home. It is patient, tireless, persistent, even when it seems gone. It circles back at the first scent of humility. You can't out-sin it, outrun it, or outlast it. It is older than your rebellion and stronger than your shame. Mercy existed before you failed and will remain long after the memory of failure fades. The ancient writings describe this miracle in language that still shakes the soul, as was spoken through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 10. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. This is the sound of mercy returning not as sentiment, but as covenant. God's compassion isn't fragile, it's immovable. Even when everything else collapses, His affection for you stands untouched. The mountains may crumble, but mercy does not move. You may still carry the memory of your mistakes, but heaven does not. Grace does not amnesia your past. It redeems it into testimony. What once brought shame now becomes proof that God restores completely. The areas where you failed become the very altars where His goodness is displayed. Every time you share your story, mercy speaks again through your voice. And here is the mystery. The same place that broke you becomes the birthplace of your authority. The pain that once silenced you now gives weight to your words. People will hear in your tone what they cannot learn from sermons, the sound of a soul rebuilt by mercy. That is the power of divine restoration. Mercy doesn't only cleanse, it commissions. God doesn't just forgive you so you can rest. He restores you so you can rise. Every forgiven moment carries assignment. The grace that lifted you up now sends you out to love, to build, to speak hope into those who still believe silence is forever. You are not who you were before the silence. You carry the calm of one who has met both absence and return. You've learned what many never do, that distance was never separation, but invitation. You now understand the rhythm of heaven. Conviction breaks. Silence teaches. Mercy rebuilds. So, walk gently but boldly. The same God who once called you to listen now calls you to live. Let the memory of mercy shape every word, every action, every heartbeat. You are no longer just a survivor, you are a sanctuary. Everywhere you go, grace travels with you. A living reminder that love never leaves, only pauses until we are ready to receive it again. And now, mercy walks beside you, not as a visitor, but as your constant companion, chosen one. The time of hidden preparation is ending. The furnace has done its work. The silence has taught its lesson, and mercy has returned, not to soothe you, but to send you. You are standing on the edge of a new chapter, the rise of the marked ones, those who have walked through fire without burning, those who have wrestled with God and come out with limp and blessing alike. You are not emerging empty-handed. You are carrying authority shaped by endurance. When God calls His marked ones, the earth feels it. The wind shifts. Time itself bends slightly to make room for new light. heaven begins to move through ordinary lives, filling them with extraordinary weight. And you, yes, you, have been chosen to bear that light. The pain that once silenced you has become the very oil that keeps your lamp burning. The world around you grows darker, but darkness only makes light more visible. Don't be afraid of standing out. You were never meant to blend in. You are a beacon, not a shadow. Your faith is a lighthouse that others will steer toward. You carry an unseen crown. And when you walk in obedience, the glow of that crown becomes visible to those still trapped in confusion. But light cannot sustain itself alone. Even the brightest flame needs oxygen. The messages you hear, the truth that stirs your heart, they survive through unity. When you like, share, and subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm. You are breathing life into the fire. You are saying, let this light continue to reach those still lost in the dark. Entry. It's easy to think of engagement as small, but in the spiritual sense, it's sacred. Every click becomes a torch passed forward. Every share becomes a doorway where hope walks in, and every comment becomes a spark that reminds others, you are not alone. You are helping build a digital cathedral stone by stone, word by word, heart by heart. The scriptures describe this divine collaboration in beautiful simplicity, as written in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 27. You are the body of Christ, and each one a part of it. Each part matters. The message does not spread because of one voice shouting. It spreads because many hearts echo it. You are not a spectator. You are a participant in something eternal. And if this message has touched you deeply, consider sustaining the flame that sustains others. When you donate, it isn't about payment, it's participation. Think of it like tending a lamp in a temple. Your contribution is oil. Without oil, the flame flickers. With it, the light continues for those who still stumble in darkness. You're not giving to something, you're giving through it. Your act of generosity becomes a ripple in eternity, a quiet yes that continues to echo long after your moment of giving. Perhaps your gift is small, but in heaven's economy, nothing given in love stays small. A single seed can grow into a forest. A single act of faith can outlast centuries. You may never see the faces of those your giving reaches, but one day in eternity, you'll meet them and they'll say, your light found me when I couldn't find myself. And this movement isn't built on one person, it's built on a chorus of the awakened. Every share, every prayer, every word written in faith becomes part of heaven's tapestry. And when you comment your thoughts below, it's not just feedback, it's fellowship. You are adding your voice to a divine conversation that transcends space and time. So write your reflections. Speak what this word stirred in you. Let the comment section become a sanctuary where the chosen encourage one another. Someone reading your words may find the courage to stand again because of what you share. Your vulnerability might be someone else's resurrection. Chosen one. You are not merely being inspired, you are being commissioned. Heaven is recruiting its marked ones to rebuild the ruins, to heal the broken, to carry the sound of truth into places where lies have lived too long. You are one of them. The oil on your life was never meant to stay sealed, it was meant to pour. So pour it through your words, through your kindness, through your support, through your witness. Keep the light alive. Let your digital footprint become a trail of hope that leads others back to faith. Every generation has its torchbearers. And now, it is your turn. The crown upon your spirit glows not for display but for duty. The world is waiting for your yes, and heaven is ready to move through it. Carry your light, chosen soul, and don't let it dim. Chosen one. The crown you carry was never placed upon your head by human hands. It was forged in the unseen, crafted from endurance, purified by tears, and sealed by obedience. You didn't stumble into glory, you grew into it through pain. Every fiery trial that once made you question your worth was actually heaven's workshop, shaping you into a vessel that could hold divine authority. There is a kind of fire that destroys, and another that defines. You walked through both, and only one remained. The first stripped away what was temporary. The second revealed what was eternal. That's why your spirit feels heavier now. More grounded. More aware. The old version of you couldn't carry this weight. It had to die for the new one to rise. What you call scars, heaven calls signatures. Each mark on your heart is proof of a covenant fulfilled. Crowned in fire, you wear proof of endurance. But this crown is not made of gold or jewels. It's woven from surrender, laced with humility, and set with the jewels of wisdom earned through brokenness. It doesn't glitter in the sunlight, it glows in the darkness. The kind of glory you carry now cannot be displayed on a stage. It can only be discerned by those who carry the same flame. When you walk into a room, the spiritual atmosphere adjusts, not because of ego, but because of essence. You no longer speak for approval. You speak from alignment. Your authority doesn't come from volume, but from vibration. Your words carry weight because they were birthed in pain and tested in silence. Heaven trusts the voice of the wounded, who stayed faithful. Do you feel it? That quiet strength pulsing beneath your fear. That's resurrection power. Not the loud kind that shouts miracles across crowds, but the steady kind that rebuilds what others declared impossible. You have become a living prophecy, a walking contradiction to every lie that said you'd never rise again. It is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7. These trials show your faith is genuine, tested like gold, yet more precious than it. That truth has always been yours. What was tested wasn't your strength, it was your authenticity. God already knew you could endure. He wanted you to know it too. The fire didn't come to question your faith, it came to confirm it. Now, the season of testing turns into the season of shining, not to boast, but to illuminate. You've been made into a lantern in human form, fragile on the outside, indestructible within. People will be drawn to you, not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. The same light that once guided you through darkness now radiates from you, guiding others. But remember this, crowns are heavy for a reason. They are reminders, not décoration. The greater your glory, the deeper your humility must be. To wear divine authority is to walk in quiet service. The higher the light rises, the closer it must stay to the source, or it flickers out. You are not done being refined. You've simply reached a new temperature of trust. The fire that once tested you will now follow you, not as a threat, but as a mantle. Everywhere you go, atmospheres will shift, not because of your name, but because of the one whose mark you bear. And yet, With glory comes responsibility. The crown doesn't just signify what you've endured, it signifies who you now represent. You are a living reflection of mercy. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every place your feet touch becomes sacred ground. Heaven expects you to walk as one who has seen both fire and favor, and still chosen faith. Do not fear the new weight upon your spirit. The greater the fire, the purer the light that emerges. You have crossed the threshold where suffering turns into stewardship. What once hurt you now helps others. What once silenced you now gives you voice. You carry not just victory, but legacy. Chosen one, you are not fragile anymore. You are flame wrapped in flesh. Light moving through time. You will walk through places that once rejected you, and they will see not your power, but His reflection in your endurance. The crown you wear is invisible to the world, but unmistakable in the spirit. It glows, not with pride, but with purpose. So lift your head. The same fire that once surrounded you now crowns you. The battle didn't end you, it revealed you. And now, every step you take burns a trail for others to follow. You are crowned in fire, and the world will never be the same. Chosen one. This is the final threshold, the moment where obedience becomes destiny fulfilled. You have walked through silence, fire, and mercy. Now heaven stands still to witness your surrender complete. This is the sound of the final trumpet, not of destruction, but of revelation. What was once unseen now unfolds, and what was once uncertain now takes shape before you. The journey you've taken has not been circular, it's been ascending. Every season that felt repetitive was actually a higher ring on the same spiral, pulling you closer to divine completion. You are no longer who you were when the call first found you. The person who doubted, feared, resisted, that version of you died somewhere between the silence and the fire. What remains now is the soul that has learned the cost of disobedience and the beauty of surrender. The final trumpet is not about noise, it's about recognition. It's the moment when heaven and earth agree about who you are. The old names failure, rebel, wanderer, fall away. In their place, a new name glows in unseen letters, carved by grace, obedient one. You've moved from resisting God to representing Him. The weight of your calling no longer feels like a burden, it feels like belonging. Do you feel the shift within? The strange quiet that isn't emptiness but authority. That's the stillness of alignment. Heaven doesn't shout when something is finished, it rests. The Creator Himself, after forming the world, didn't celebrate with noise, He sanctified the silence. The same rest now descends upon you. It is not the pause of exhaustion, but the peace of completion. The final trumpet also speaks of accountability. You've been given sight, wisdom, revelation, and heaven holds you responsible for what you now know. You cannot return to blindness. Revelation always costs remembrance. But don't fear the weight. It's not meant to crush you, but to crown you. You've proven faithful with little, and greater authority awaits. The obedience you once feared has become your home. The sacred text describes this moment for those who endure to the end, those who allow obedience to complete its work within them, as was written in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 21, to the one who is victorious. I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. Just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on His throne. This promise isn't distant, it begins now. Victory isn't only about eternity, it's about walking in divine rulership today. To sit with Him doesn't mean power over others. It means authority over yourself, your fears, your doubts, your impulses. You've learned to rule your inner kingdom, and heaven calls that victory. The sound of the final trumpet also marks a transition. The season of refining gives way to the season of reigning. But reign in the kingdom of God doesn't look like dominance, it looks like service. To reign is to love without condition, to forgive without hesitation, to live without fear. You've become a vessel through which heaven's will can flow unhindered. That is the true definition of obedience fulfilled. There will still be storms, but they won't shake you anymore. You've learned that faith doesn't silence thunder, it steadies the soul beneath it. There will still be voices that misunderstand your path, but their noise won't reach your heart. You've already heard the only voice that matters, and it has called you mine, chosen one. The obedience that once felt like sacrifice has turned into freedom. You've traded resistance for rhythm, striving for stillness, fear for faith. You've discovered that surrender doesn't mean loss, it means alignment. What once terrified you now anchors you. You are no longer chasing after signs. You've become one. Your life itself is a message, a declaration that God's patience still pursues, that His mercy still restores, that His fire still refines. Everywhere you go, the fragrance of that truth follows you. People may not know why they feel peace around you, but heaven knows. You've become a walking altar, a living continuation of God's voice on earth. This is the end of the rebellion and the beginning of reign. Heaven's silence has turned into a song that never ends, and your spirit hums in harmony with it. You've reached the point where obedience and love are no longer two separate things, they are one heartbeat. So stand in this sacred stillness, crowned in flame, clothed in peace, surrounded by light. The war inside you has been won, and the one who called you is now revealed through you. This is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your glory. Chosen one. If you've made it this far, you already know this message was never random. It was a mirror held up to your spirit, a reminder that God has never stopped speaking your name. You've walked through every word, from fire to silence, from warning to restoration. Now you stand where destiny meets devotion. If this journey has stirred something inside you, if you've felt the warmth of recognition, the whisper that said, "This was for me," then don't let it end here. Like this message, not as a reaction, but as a declaration, I receive what was spoken. When you share, you are extending the flame, carrying light into someone else's midnight. Your single act might be the spark that awakens another chosen soul still wandering in silence. Take a moment to comment what this message meant to you. Your words may become the thread that pulls another heart back from despair. In that space of honesty, connection is born. Testimony multiplies where truth is spoken aloud. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Stay close to the flow of what heaven keeps revealing. This isn't just content, it's communion. Every message that follows will build upon this foundation you've now walked through. Let's keep this flame alive together. What began as a whisper will become a wildfire, one heart at a time. One yes at a time. The light doesn't stop here. Chosen one, it spreads through you.